shocks of COVID-19 pandemic, and we also had the fiscal capacity to recover. Loose lips sink ships, but the steady hand and resilient minds of this administration, they have navigated us through choppy waters. Our governance posture is not to run with it. We believe that economic stability and resilience are buttressed by sound policies and strong governance, and by holding public institutions accountable. Consequently, we will address an issue which has been in the public domain concerning governance. I now turn over to a senior member of our communication task force, Marlon Morgan, for his statement.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, MP Morrison. Morning again, ladies and gentlemen. Let me thank MP Kerensia Morrison. I must also thank you, members of the media, for joining us this morning. And while I'm at it, I wish also to extend a special welcome to my Jamaican brothers and sisters who are tuned live to this media conference, and for those who will, of course, catch it delayed. Based on the constitutional due date, the people of Jamaica will be called upon to elect members of parliament and determine who forms government at some point during the course of calendar year 2025. By all indications, the upcoming general elections will be among the most consequential yet in Jamaica's recent history. While the Jamaica Labour Party has been working assiduously and has been delivering for the Jamaican people in the areas that matter most to them, areas such as crime management, job creation, economic opportunities, road rehabilitation, housing, and access to potable water, the parliamentary opposition has not presented any credible, coherent, or compelling plans or alternatives to move Jamaica forward. This Jamaica Labour Party administration has been insistent on abiding by principles of good governance, in particular where it concerns the use of public funds. On the other hand, the PNP has been on platforms attempting to deceive and mislead the Jamaican people by presenting themselves as lily-white and as though they are paragons of virtue. However, the Lawrence Rowe PNP hush money scandal, along with the latest developments in this unfolding saga, which may be characterized as the PNP KCMC corruption scandal, removes the mask from the PNP and exposes them for who and what they really are. The Jamaica Labour Party has taken careful note of media reports over the past week, corroborated by exported WhatsApp conversations, including a quite damning and extremely disturbing voice note in which the PNP's embattled General Secretary, Dr. Dayton Campbell, sought to explain the basis on which the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, the KCMC for short, directed more money to PNP operatives, including caretakers, in other sections of the municipality compared to what the PNP's then caretaker for Central Kingston, Lawrence Rowe, told Dayton Campbell that he had actually received. The media has reported that the voice note was part of a December 2024 WhatsApp conversation between Lawrence Rowe and Dr. Dayton Campbell. It is noteworthy, ladies and gentlemen, that despite the passage of a week, Dr. Campbell has not denied having the conversation, nor has he denied responding in the manner the voice note indicates that he did. It is important to note that in the WhatsApp conversation, the PNP then caretaker, Lawrence Rowe, directly questioned the embattled PNP General Secretary, Dr. Dayton Campbell, as to why some PNP political operatives received more money from the KCMC including sums amounting to $500,000 relative to the $300,000 which Lawrence Rowe told Dayton Campbell that he had received. It is also important to note that in responding to the direct question put to him by Lawrence Rowe, Dayton Campbell did not condemn or in any way repudiate or indeed disassociate the PNP from the use of KCMC money to advance the partisan agenda and electoral interests of the PNP and, of course, its political operatives. A direct question was put to Dr. Dayton Campbell, and he provided a direct response. We have, in fact, transcribed Dr. Dayton Campbell's response for the public record and, of course, for the benefit of those who may not have heard it as yet. The embattled PNP General Secretary was questioned about the sincerity or commitment of the PNP-controlled KCMC to winning Central Kingston, and he was questioned as to why more KCMC money was allocated to other PNP caretakers compared to what was allocated to him, Lawrence Rowe, over there in Central Kingston. In direct response to the question put to him by Lawrence Rowe about the distribution of funds by the KCMC, Dr. Dayton Campbell may be heard in his own voice saying, and I'm quoting here now, "I can tell you why that happened. It's because they put more money in the two divisions that we're going to have by-elections in. So you're going to have a by-election in Chancery and you're going to have a by-election in Denham Town. So they put some more money in the two divisions that are going to have the by-elections." And we are now going to hear in Dr. Campbell's own voice what he said in that 17-second voice note.
I can tell you why that happened. That's because they put more money in the two divisions that we're going to have by-elections in. So we're going to have a by-election in Chancery, I'm going to have a by-election in Denham Town. So they put some more money in the two divisions that are going to have the.
There you have it, Dr. Campbell's own words in Dayton Campbell's own voice. In another voice note that has been disclosed by the media, the embattled PNP General Secretary sought to assure Lawrence Rowe that the disproportionate issuance of money to various PNP representatives was not a sign of the KCMC's lack of commitment to winning Central Kingston. It is the Jamaica Labour Party's considered view, and we are confident that well-thinking Jamaicans will concur with us, that the response from Dr. Dayton Campbell was disgraceful, repugnant, scandalous, and quite frankly, unacceptable, and that the PNP KCMC corruption scandal warrants strong and decisive action against him, as he, in his capacity as PNP General Secretary, has ultimate responsibility for the party's political activities and electioneering, and indeed how they are sustained. To be very clear, we make no allegation of personal malfeasance concerning the embattled PNP General Secretary, Dr. Dayton Campbell. However, what is clear and incontrovertible is that based on messages at hand and messages that are widely publicized, when asked about the inappropriate use of KCMC monies to distribute to PNP political representatives, Dr. Dayton Campbell responded directly to the inquiry in voice, explaining why that was happening, and in the same breath, he referenced upcoming by-elections, those of course being in Denham Town Division and of course the Chancery Hall Division. We find Dr. Campbell's response both unbecoming and unacceptable, and must point out that it falls woefully short of what is required of the CEO of a major political party in Jamaica, and of course, a commissioner of the Electoral Commission of Jamaica. In fact, the response suggests systematic, inappropriate conduct by the political party of which Dr. Dayton Campbell is a leading member. The Jamaica Labour Party also notes that other apparent WhatsApp conversations have been reported on by the media, which appear to corroborate what Lawrence Rowe alleged in conversations with Dr. Dayton Campbell. In those messages, a former PNP councillor who now serves as an administrative staffer to Kingston Mayor Andrew Swaby told Lawrence Rowe to collect the same sum Rowe referenced in conversation with Dr. Dayton Campbell, that of course being 300,000 Jamaican dollars. Mayor Swaby's administrative staffer told Lawrence Rowe that he should note that the money being made available to him is, and I quote, not for public knowledge. This entire PNP KCMC corruption scandal strongly suggests that the opposition PNP as an institution has resorted to using taxpayers' money to fund its political campaign activities and to line the pockets of its political operatives, including unelected PNP representatives. And they are doing so all in their vulgar, despicable, and desperate pursuit of power. Our information is that millions of dollars were expended by the KCMC in this inappropriate and repugnant manner. In light of the foregoing observations and this deepening KCMC PNP corruption scandal, as we have good reason to believe there is more yet to come on this matter, the Jamaica Labour Party is calling for the following. 1, the immediate resignation of Dr. Dayton Campbell as a commissioner of the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, ECJ. He is to also resign from the shadow cabinet as he substantively serves as the opposition spokesman on agriculture and fisheries. And he's also to resign as PNP General Secretary. It is important to note that the Electoral Commission of Jamaica is a well-respected and highly acclaimed institution here in our country. It is guided by principles which inherently run counter to the use of state resources in the manner in which Dr. Dayton Campbell was explaining to Lawrence Rowe in that now infamous voice note, and indeed the screenshots of those WhatsApp messages. Dayton Campbell must resign immediately. Number 2, we demand that the mayor of Kingston, who is also the chairman of the KCMC, specifically respond to assertions in the public domain that a KCMC official was in central Kingston in December 2024 issuing money to influential PNP activists, and that the KCMC is being systematically used to corruptly fund the PNP's political and electoral activities, and of course, to line the pockets of its party operatives, including unelected PNP political representatives. We find a statement issued last week by Mayor of Kingston, Mayor Swaby, on the matter to be indirect. He was evasive, and his statement was grossly inadequate. Mayor Swaby must tell Jamaica whether his political boss, Dr. Dayton Campbell, was inaccurate when Campbell told Lawrence Rowe that the KCMC was distributing taxpayers' money on a partisan basis and to shore up the electoral pursuits of the PNP. If Mayor Andrew Swaby cannot, within 24 hours, provide adequate, credible, and definitive clarity concerning this specific matter, he too must resign and step aside as Mayor of Kingston and the chairman of the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation. Point number 3, the Jamaica Labour Party is aware of word concerning the existence of additional video and audio tapes involving PNP officials and operatives discussing the inappropriate use of public funds from the KCMC to line the pockets of PNP caretakers and to fund their political activities. The Jamaica Labour Party, and indeed well-thinking Jamaicans, insist that PNP President Mark Golding tells the country whether he was aware of what is being exposed as the PNP's inappropriate use of state resources to fund its election campaign activities. Mark Golding must tell us what, if anything, he has done about it to date. And he should not tell us to ask the PNP. Point number 4. In the event that Dr. Dayton Campbell does not resign as ECJ Commissioner, Opposition Spokesman on Agriculture and Fisheries, and the PNP General Secretary, the People's National Party President Mark Golding should act in a timely and decisive manner by ensuring that Dr. Dayton Campbell, his embattled General Secretary, is separated from the 3 reference posts ASAP. Point number 5. While we are not surprised, we note Mark Golding's assertion at a PNP political rally in Northwest St. Catherine this past Sunday that he has a lot of confidence in Dr. Dayton Campbell. This affirmation of support for Dr. Campbell by Mark Golding came merely a few days after media reports exposed the wretched and sleazy PNP KCMC corruption scandal in which the embattled PNP General Secretary, Dr. Dayton Campbell, is embroiled. Mark Golding's handling of this scandal engulfing Dr. Dayton Campbell and the PNP will determine whether he should be taken seriously when he promised to adopt a zero-tolerance approach to unacceptable treatment of public funds. Any failure or equivocation on the part of opposition leader Mark Golding to appropriately hold Dr. Dayton Campbell to account render him unsuitable for the constitutional office he currently holds, let alone the highest elected office in the land to which he, Mark Golding, is aspiring. Quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Golding's week-long silence and his inaction on this matter thus far is quite disturbing, and the Jamaican people should seriously assess his suitability to lead this country of ours. Our penultimate point. The JLP welcomes word that there are 2 separate anti-corruption investigations underway into this wretched KCMC PNP corruption scandal. Given the emerging trend of malfeasance and apparent systemic corrupt and inappropriate use of taxpayers' money at PNP-controlled municipal corporations, including, of course, the Manchester Municipal Corporation, the Hanover Municipal Corporation, the Westmoreland Municipal Corporation, the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation, and, of course, the KCMC. The Jamaica Labour Party, like all well-thinking Jamaicans, are calling for the immediate and urgent audit by the Auditor General of all these municipal corporations controlled by the PNP, in particular, of course, the KCMC. And our final point, the Jamaica Labour Party also notes that the PNP KCMC corruption scandal has been in the public domain for almost a week now, with supporting screenshots of WhatsApp messages and voice notes readily accessible. However, to date, we are not aware of any statement issued by our usually vocal and vociferous civil society groups, which of course profess and assert that they are non-partisan and that they are vanguards, essentially watchdogs on matters concerning integrity, corruption, accountability in public office, and of course, lawful use of taxpayers' money. We trust that our usually vocal civil society groups will find their voice and address this sordid and scandalous PNP KCMC corruption scandal as a means of reassuring the onlooking public and, of course, promoting and upholding accountability in the use of public funds and by those who preside over public funds. That brings us to the end of the opening statement. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Thank you, Marlon. Tried, tested, and proven, our government stands on a strong record of performance that exemplifies our respect for the Jamaican people, sober, coherent, and responsible. We subscribe to the highest levels of accountability. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open for your questions.
Good morning, Kimmo and Francis from the Gleaner. Who are the two investigating bodies?
All right, so the Jamaica Labour Party, like the rest of the public, based on media reports, is apprised that there are two investigating anti-corruption bodies attending upon this matter. No disclosure has come from those authorities as yet. They are, however, the competent authorities in relation to undertaking a detailed, professional, and comprehensive probe into a matter such as this, and we trust that at an appropriate juncture, a disclosure will be made by those respective anti-corruption investigating bodies as to the progress of their investigations, and of course to just confirm to the public that they are in fact embarked on a probe into this sordid KCMC corruption scandal.
Additionally, the Auditor General just released a report in terms of the KCMC and audit. Are you calling for her to go back and audit again?
Well, we do not know precisely what the work plan of the Auditor General has been and if it took her department up to December of 2024. So just for the benefit of the public should recall and appreciate that the Auditor General has a mandate to essentially verify and attest to faithful stewardship by public officials, and in particular in relation to the use of public funds. We do not know that the audit recently concluded, the one you are referencing, would have taken into account the developments at the KCMC in December of 2024. But if in fact it does not already take that into account, we are commending to the Auditor General and her team of hard-working professionals at the department to attend upon the KCMC and seek to ferret out precisely what transpired, particularly over that Christmas work period, having regard to December 2024, and of course, satisfy the Jamaican people that taxpayers' money was utilized for the purposes intended, as opposed, ladies and gentlemen, to being diverted in a corrupt way in furtherance of the PNP's electioneering pursuits and partisan political activities.
Kelisha Williams, Television Jamaica. I saw an article with Dr. Campbell already saying that he's rejecting the calls for him to resign, and he's saying that he cannot be held accountable for misuse of the KCMC funds. What do you say to that?
So in relation to Dr. Campbell not having superintendence over the KCMC's resources, Dr. Campbell is quite correct. He is misguided, however, in his attempt and in his bravado to resist calls for his resignation, because he's seeking to suggest, yes, that persons were suggesting or intimating that he, Dayton Campbell, somehow caused monies to be used, KCMC monies, to be used in undesirable and inappropriate ways. That's not the observation well-thinking Jamaicans are making. The point being made here is that having regard to a WhatsApp conversation between Dayton Campbell and Lawrence Rowe, the PNP's then caretaker in Central Kingston, yes, we saw the exchange, we saw the question that was directly put to Dr. Campbell, we saw the response he provided, and we have heard him, in his own words, essentially giving tacit support to and giving approval or signaling approval for the use of KCMC's resources in the way referenced in the conversation. Because his reference as well to the impending by-elections in Denham Town and the Chancery Hall Division is highly suggestive of essentially such supporting the use of money, public funds, in furtherance of or to prop up electioneering agenda and pursuits in the respective spaces where by-elections are due.
Kimon again from the Gleaner. The KCMC has said that it does not issue cash. If this is so, would this scandal not implicate administrative staff at the municipal corporation as well?
Now, we are very clear, having regard to how public funds are expended, that the KCMC ought not to be interfacing with contractors or indeed persons who have undertaken work and warrant legitimate payment from that municipal corporation in cash. You would usually have direct wire transfers and so on. However, it is to be noted that the alleged flow of funds in terms of bank transfers are also of considerable moment in this particular KCMC PNP corruption scandal, because this is why we're calling for the Auditor General to go in and make certain determinations. And of course, this is why we are encouraged that there are two competent anti-corruption investigative authorities who have since attended upon the KCMC and are undertaking work. The statement that Mayor Swaby issued last Friday, as we said in our substantive opening statement this morning, is grossly inadequate. It seeks to essentially give the impression that everything is above board. And the truth of the matter is that, having regard to that disturbing conversation between Lawrence Rowe and Dr. Dayton Campbell, we are very much concerned that you may have had a misdirecting of the KCMC's resources, that is, taxpayers' money, in furtherance of the PNP's partisan political activities. The better question, for example, is, on what basis would the KCMC have caused the 300,000 Jamaican dollars to be dispatched to Lawrence Rowe? The officer at the KCMC, a KCMC administrative staffer, having regard to her own language, indicating to Lawrence Rowe and urging him to not make this matter public knowledge, or that this dispatch of $300,000 to him is not for public knowledge, is quite instructive. It suggests that they are minded, and are mindful rather, that what they are doing is essentially undesirable and perhaps unlawful. But those determinations properly are for the competent authorities who are already embarked on an investigation to determine. But the Jamaican people are looking on. We're waiting, awaiting the findings in relation to this matter, because the chips ought to fall where they may. But that notwithstanding, based on Dayton Campbell's utterance and what it essentially means, he is unsuitable to be serving as a commissioner of the Electoral Commission of Jamaica. He is unsuitable to be serving as spokesperson on agriculture and fisheries, because the parliamentary opposition are essentially auditioning to form government in Jamaica. Dayton Campbell is essentially an alternative to the incumbent Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining. His position is untenable, quite frankly.
If none of these calls is answered, what is the JLP prepared to do in terms of calls for resignation?
So just to be very clear, 2 Sundays ago at a political rally in Western St. Mary, where the PNP sought to present a particular gentleman as its designated standard bearer, Mark Golding, and it was reported, Kimon, in your Gleaner newspaper, gave a certain assurance to the public, indicating, among other things, that he is not in the hanky-panky business. He will not be countenancing, as it were, the hanky-panky business. So he sought to assure the Jamaican people that even as opposition leader, and I dare say if he were to be elected to that higher office, that he would have a zero-tolerance approach and a no-nonsense stance on the matter of corruption. Now, the truth of the matter is that, having regard to what we are seeing unfolding in this PNP KCMC corruption scandal, the two things cannot reconcile. Dr. Dayton Campbell, Mark Golding's embattled General Secretary, is in an untenable position. He must resign, irrespective of his bravado, irrespective of his lip service, irrespective of how he goes about the place and indicate that he's big and broad and his back is broad and him afraid of no boy and no girl. The truth of the matter is that his position is untenable, because in his own voice and my technical support can play it again for the benefit of those tuning into our live stream. The gentleman was essentially lending tacit support or okaying as the CEO of the PNP. Yes? Something that is not intended in terms of the use and channeling of public funds. So Mark Golding cannot, ladies and gentlemen, on the one hand, signal that he has a no-nonsense stance in relation to things that are hanky-panky business, such as what is emerging in this PNP KCMC corruption scandal, and on the other hand, lend succor to his embattled General Secretary. He is either fish or fowl. He must either put up or shut up. Mark Golding cannot be all things to all men, and he cannot have two masters in this instance. He either has to have integrity in public office being his master, or he may elect to support and stand in solidarity with his embattled General Secretary, which goes against the grain of integrity and probity in public office, and certainly in relation to use of public funds.
Good morning. Mahiri Stewart from Nationwide News. I do remember Senator Abka Fitzhenley bringing up some of the points you brought up a while ago regarding calling for Dayton Campbell to resign from the ECJ. And in response, I remember Opposition Senator Donna Scott Motley highlighting that she says that there's corruption on both sides. And she cited that as a call to the JLP to admit that it's the issue of corruption in governance is something that both parties are guilty of. Do you think this is a fair call to make? Do you think she's right, given some of the stuff we've seen over the past couple of years, or do you see it as a deflection from what's going on?
I see it precisely as a deflection from the germane point and issues that are on the table. There is no doubt, Mahiri, listeners, viewers, that Jamaica has been beset by the scourge of corruption over several decades. And it is for this precise reason why the governing Jamaica Labour Party is committed to supporting anti-corruption efforts, supporting the fight to prop up our institutions insofar as ferreting out corruption, detecting corruption, and holding persons who are corrupt to account. The respective budgets of the Integrity Commission have increased over the past few financial years, and the government has stood in solidarity in terms of providing the financial resources to one of our premier integrity outfits in the country, because we are committed to the fight against corruption. And as you have seen throughout the life of this Jamaica Labour Party administration, since forming government in March of 2016, we have had allegations of corruption. We have had instances which fell short of the standards and ideals of conduct in public office. And what we have and what we can say definitively is that action has been taken by the Jamaica Labour Party and its leader, our Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Michael Holness, in those respective regards. There are persons who would have served in a previous dispensation as even ministers of government, and you have had action taken signaling our no-nonsense approach in relation to corruption. And of course, we do not interfere where there are respective probes going on and investigations going on, because we are firmly committed to ushering in a Jamaica where the citizenry and yourselves as practitioners in media can be assured, yes, that we are entirely committed to the fight against corruption, because any misdirecting or malfeasance in relation to public funds diverts money from intended purposes, such as the building out of water systems in communities, putting more JUTC buses on our roads, purchasing motor vehicles for our police to facilitate their mobility, and of course, fixing our roadways so that all of us can drive on a better and more fit for purpose network of roads.
Yeah, and second question, you did mention at the end about civil society and what you've described as their silence on the matter. If we were to look back at, let's say, just for a decent time frame, let's say the past year, how would you gauge the Jamaica Labour Party's confidence, rather, in civil society in terms of how much they speak on matters regarding corruption and issues of allegations of bad governance, let's say over the past year?
Well, in this specific instance, Mahiri, listeners, viewers, we have not seen where any of our usually vocal civil society groups have, established or asserted a presence on this particular issue, that being the PNP KCMC corruption scandal. Yes, that notwithstanding, we recognize the work of our non-government organizations. We appreciate the work of civil society groups because they serve to hold public officials to account, and they serve to essentially ensure that public funds are used in matters that are, intended, because any diverting of those funds, as I said earlier, robs the public coffers, robs the consolidated fund of resources that should be doing the things that will advance and benefit the lives of the Jamaican people. And so, insofar as their own stewardship, we leave the public to judge the degree to which civil society groups have been effective.